Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, right. Okay, so basically today's session is on shape grammar application in architecture. If you still remember the last lecture that I gave, it's also application of shape grammar. Previous one was for analysis of existing design, right? So basically your project one also is the same. I mean, using the same application with the previous lecture, right? So I hope you still remember, because you need that knowledge to, in a way, work on project one. Okay, so basically in the first application of shape grammar, you need to study an existing design, right? So if you still remember the previous lecture, there are several projects or researches that have been conducted by many people around the world, right? So basically, they study a lot of different design under the same style. Okay, for example, like I think that the easiest to remember for me is the Frank Lloyd Wright Prairie Houses. Okay, so basically the researcher took 10 or 11 designs under the same category or under the same style, which is the Prairie House design. So basically, all the houses were designed by Frank Lloyd Wright himself. No? But the researcher basically took these different design and then tried to find similarities between the design, right? And eventually come up with the rules, right? Rules that produce the design itself. Okay, and then using the rules which has been established, the researcher basically create a lot of new designs which has never been produced by Frank Lloyd Wright. Okay, so in project one also the concept is the same, right? You need to study, you need to find a pavilion, okay, a small pavilion, right? And then, but perhaps maybe you cannot find several pavilion in the same style. So it's okay just to take one design, and then from that one pavilion design, you need to try to decode, right? Try to unlock or try to analyze or understand the design principles, how the forms, how the shape of the pavilion was derived, right? Using the relationship of shapes. Okay, so when you understand this, and then you need to convert it into shape rules. Okay, so using the newly established shape rules, then you need to produce your own design in the same style as the existing pavilion. Okay, right. So for today, it is slightly different. Basically, shape grammar is all the same. It's just the application is different. So in the previous lecture, in the previous application, you need to find existing building. Okay, you need to find existing building. You need to study. You need to analyze the existing design before you can apply the shape grammar, right? But for today's lecture, right, the application is quite straightforward. It's just like whatever you have done for the exercises. Okay, so you don't have to find any existing design. Right? Basically, you just come out with your own rules, and then using the rules, straight away you create designs. So as simple as that, right? Okay, so this type of shape grammar application is for schematic or conceptual design development, right? So it's not like normally this schematic or conceptual design, as you have done in Design Studio, right? It happened during the early stage of the design process. Okay, uh, um, so it doesn't really concern about the analysis, site analysis, things like that. Even though you can try to relate it to the site, okay. But then this type of application is normally just to get ideas, okay, ideas on how the farm would look like, okay, and it is more suitable for island site. Normally you deal with island site in semester. I think all semesters also you dealt with island site, semester 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6, right? So in semester 5, you are doing sandwich site. You have other buildings next to your site. So maybe it's a bit restricted if you want to apply this. You want to apply shape grammar to that kind of site. But it's actually possible, okay, especially if your form is just made of blocks, right? Then it's possible actually. Another type of application where you can use shape grammar for your design is to develop your facade design. Okay, it can be used for facade design development. Okay, so instead of using shape grammar to come up with the form, the overall form of the building, you just use this method. Just use shape grammar to design the facade. Okay, which has been done by I think one of my students before. Okay, so just to design the facade using shape grammar. So in this application, it's only divided into two parts. Okay, in the previous application for analysis, there are three parts, right? Analysis, and then you have you come up with the rules, and then you create new design using the rules. But for this kind of application, you only have two parts. The first one is to design the rules to create basic design or basic form. Okay, so just using blocks to create the overall form of the building. And the second one is ornamenting rules. Okay, ornamenting rules is basically to detail out the forms, right? Okay, so the first one is rules to create basic design. I think I've shown you before. This was done by myself when I did my research last time in shape grammar of Rodina residence. Okay, so designs are initially developed using basic rules with one or more simple spatial relation between 3D shapes. Okay, so basically you use basic forms or basic shapes. Okay, like triangle, like cube or cuboid, right? And then you arrange. Basically, you're not arranging the shapes itself. You design the rules. So let the rules design the come up with the with the arrangement of shape. Okay. So as you can see here, this one is quite simple, and maybe it's a bit difficult to understand the application here. But basically like number 4, right? Schema number 4, as I mentioned last time, schema is rules, a different name for rule. So rule number 4, basically I have that triangle shape object, okay, form, and then basically the rule mentioned that so I can add another triangle at any of the 3 sides of the triangle of the original triangle. Okay, so so the end result is something like this. Okay, and then rule number 9, basically this one deals with the darker part, is basically the position of the core of the building, the staircase core, right, where the staircase is located, right. Rule number 8, 9, and 10 basically deals with the stair core, right. So number 8 is right in the middle in the hexagon shape, and then rule number 9 is triangular shape, and rule number 10 is a hexagon shape, but it is at the perimeter of the building, right? Rule number 5 basically indicates that this triangle can be multiplied, right, at the right side. Okay, so you just imagine that triangle and then you add another side. Okay, so you add another triangle here. Okay. Okay, so you add another triangle there, and then you add again here, you add again here, you add again here, and you add again here. So in the end, you get this shape, right? But as you can see, the rules is the shape used in this kind of rules is quite simple. Okay, it's just basic shape, basic form, triangle, hexagon, okay, that kind of thing. So that's why basically it is the rules to create basic design, basic form of the building. And then the second one is ornamenting rules, right? Basically to further detail the object or the form, right? So the design is then fine-tuned by applying a different set of rules to ornament the initial design or by using traditional studio method. Okay, so I think for the final project, perhaps you don't really have to do this because I think it takes time to do it. So later on in the final project, I would brief. Basically, you don't really need to have these ornamenting rules. You just need to have the rules to create the basic form, and then you can just use you can create details manually to add windows. No need to apply specific rules for that. But what I have done previously during my research, okay, so these are examples of ornamenting rules. Like rule number 28 is actually the rule to add this pyramid roof. Okay, so the basic form basically doesn't have the roof yet. So it is the role of this ornamenting rules to add the roof, okay, the veranda, mainly the roof and the windows. Okay, this one is to create the roof. If the form is like that, then the roof should be like this. Okay, so if the form is like triangular shape like this, okay, then the roof should be like this. Okay, this is especially at the corner of the main building, right? And if the main floor of the building is triangular like this, then the roof should be like this. Okay, so if the this is another way to cover the roof for the triangular part, right? So you can see the difference between number 33 and 34. So number 33, basically the wall there, the green color wall, has that protruding windows. So the windows basically protruded from the wall. But number 34, even though the triangular shape here is the same, right? This part here, triangular shape here is the same. But if you look at the wall, on the green wall, it's different, slightly different. Okay, so for that kind of form, then the roof should be like this, number 34. Okay, so these are examples of the ornamenting rules that you can use. Okay, so basically the principles are like that. It's very simple. It's basically what you have done in the exercises and what you have done before. It's just that right now you are previously in the exercises you just create like forms, right? Maybe abstract form. Maybe there's no meaning behind the form. It's just like a pattern or something. But now it is time for you to use the shape grammar to create forms, meaningful forms, to design a building, right? For the design development of a building. Okay, so now I'm going to show you some examples of the previous projects using shape grammar in this kind of application, right? So most of the projects was done in MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology in the US. Basically, they use shape grammar in their design studio, right? So basically, in Taylor's, I only teach shape grammar as a subject, but in MIT, there is one particular person, one lecturer in MIT, who uses shape grammar in the design studio to produce the design. Right. So the first one is this. The name of the project is Ocean Observatory and Education Facility, Manhattan Beach. Yeah. So if you look at the rules, basically there are only two rules. Okay, two shape rules, and they are quite simple. Okay, probably something like you have done in the exercises before. So the first one, basically, you have like this is actually a 3D shapes. It's not 2D. This is basically a plan view of the object. So the first one is like a cuboid. Okay, it's a cuboid. The second object is also a cuboid, but it's slimmer. Right? It's thinner than the first one. Okay, so basically the first rule specifies that whenever you have this cuboid, if let's say you start your design with this cuboid, so the next step is to add this object here. Okay, at certain angle, maybe like 30 degrees angle, and maybe connected to that corner. Okay, those things should be quite specific, like, because later on when you have that kind of rules when you want to apply, so you should know how far this measurement is. So you cannot simply put the object anywhere you like, but it has to be consistent. Okay, so let's say maybe this is like what if you have a scale, right? So maybe let's say this is 3 meter. Okay, 3 meter. Then it connects to the corner of the cuboid. Then for all transformation, it should be the same. Right? It cannot be okay. The first application you connect like 3 meter, okay, from the long object, and then 2 meter, and then the third one 1 meter. It doesn't work that way. So it has to be consistent, and then the angle also should be consistent. Okay, so let's say this is 30 degrees. So whenever you apply the rules, you should be using 30 degrees. You cannot simply change the angle. Let's say the first application you put 30-degree angle, and then the second one you put 45, and then the third one 20 degrees. So it doesn't work that way, right? So if this is 30, so every time you apply the rules, the angle should be the same. The length, this length should be the same as well, right? You cannot simply change the rules when you develop the design. Right? So that's the first rule. The second rules, okay, because you have in this project, basically there are only two shapes, two kind of two different shapes in the design. So normally when you have two different shapes, you need to have at least two different rules, right? So if you only have one rule, then it won't go anywhere, right? So I hope you still remember last time I mentioned, right? So if let's say you have this object, and then you add this object with a triangle, okay? So when you apply the rules, okay, you start with the rectangular shape, and then you add a triangle, and then after that you cannot do anything because you cannot add back the rectangular shape, okay, because this is something like a reverse process lah. So it doesn't work that way. So if you want to add this rectangular again, you need to have the second rule. So the second rule would look something like this. Let's say you have triangle. You can add rectangle on one side of the triangle. Okay, because it is an equilateral triangle. So basically during the development process, you can just add the rectangular shape anywhere, okay, on the side of the triangle. Right. So similar to this application, so the first rule is concerned with the bigger cuboid, okay, and then the second rule concerns with the thinner cuboid, right? So along the way during the process, so the designer basically just keep repeatedly using these two rules to create several designs. So maybe this is the first stage, okay, using the first rule, and then second rule basically applies to a different side of the cuboid, but still using the same angle. And then in this third rule, sorry, the third stage. So I think the second stage is also rule number one. Okay, rule number one. This is rule number two. Okay, and then this is perhaps rule number two again. Okay, and then this is rule number. Can't really see where is it. Okay, but basically just apply both rules, rule number one and number two. So the same goes to your later on in your final project. You don't really need to have so many different rules. You can have, if you only play with one form or one shape, you can just have one rules. Okay, just keep applying the same rules again and again. Or maybe the most you have two rules. Okay, if you have two different shapes, you can have two rules, and you can repeatedly applying the same rules again and again. Okay, and then after the design development process, so in the end, this is the basic form. Okay, so the basic form of the design, right? So basically, this is the first stage that you need to do for the final project. It's the same. So you create the rules and then you apply the rules to create the basic form, something like this. And then the second step is to detail out the basic form, okay, into a model like this, or you can just Photoshop, or you can just draw manually. It doesn't matter. Okay, like I said earlier, you can draw or you can build a physical model, and then you take photos, things like that, right? But in this case, sorry, then this is another. This is the drawing on the left, and then on the right is basically the physical model, right? Okay, another example of this application is this courtyard houses in Malibu, California, by another student. Right, so you can see the possibilities of design, okay, created using the rules. I believe the one on this side is basically the basic form, right? It refers, I think so lah. I mean, I think it refers to, so basically the one on the left here is after certain transformation. Okay, so the first the model here on the right basically deals with the basic form, okay, boxes, using the boxes, right? There's no curved surfaces, but on the left here is basically after the designer actually transformed the corner surfaces into like curvy surface. If you look carefully, basically, if let's say you look at this one, the one that I circled, you can see that the position of the boxes are actually the same as this, right? It's just that the corner here is being curved out, okay, and then at the back here, so it's being curved out, right? So you can also apply this method to the final project, right? So basically, first you apply the rule to create the basic form using boxes like this, okay, and then after you have finished with the basic form, then you apply the rules to basically make the curved surfaces. Okay, something like this. Okay, so this is the, and then finally you pick one one design, then you detail out. You put windows and openings and so on. So another example, right? Like this one, I'm not sure how many rules because I cannot find the rules. Okay, it didn't show the rules that the student applied. But this one here also two rules. The first rule basically concerned with the smaller cuboid, right? So basically, when you have a smaller cuboid, this is how you need to add a bigger cuboid next to the smaller cuboid. And then the second rule deals with the bigger cuboid. So when you have a bigger cuboid, this is how you can apply the rules. Okay, so you just imagine if you start with this smaller cuboid here. Use a tablet. Okay, let's say you start with this smaller keyboard, right? And then the first application, if you apply the first rule, you add a bigger keyboard, right? Like this, shorter. And then the second rule, since you already have the bigger keyboard, then you can actually add the smaller keyboard like this, okay, facing that way. And then if you apply another one, rule number 2, again to the same object, you can add the smaller keyboard here, and then you apply again rule number 1, maybe towards this side. Okay. Sorry, it's pretty confusing. Right. So in the end, you're going to have a different design. So basically, these are three or four. Okay, 4 different designs now. And then finally, you need to detail out the basic form, put openings and so on. Okay, another example. All right, I believe this one is only using one shape, okay, similar shape throughout the whole design. Right, so using this spatial relation or the arrangement of shape, and these rules, this is basically the rules, right? Probably it starts with something like the rules is something like this. So you have this object, and then you add the same object but in that kind of position, okay, towards the middle part of this first object here. Okay, so keep applying the same rules again and again until you get this this different form. I believe these are all the same. I'm not really sure whether it's the same design or like two different design. Not really sure about it. Okay, but you can see that this is the basic form. Then from the basic form, how the student actually come up with this, right? But from the final design, you can see that it is slightly different from the shape used in the rules. Okay. So another example, Cultural History Museum, Los Angeles. Right. I believe this design uses two different shapes. Okay, so I think probably just like the other design that I've shown earlier, maybe initially the design the designer actually used boxes, right, like this, and then maybe a smaller box like this. Okay, And then after the designer come up with the initial design, initial form, then finally he applies like an ornamenting rules to basically create like curved surface. Let's say here, so make it like into a curved surface, and then this side here, right, on that side, let's say there's another form here. So initially it's just like a box like that, but after you apply the ornamenting rules, it becomes like curved surface like this. Okay, so you can do that as well in your design. Okay, so this is also the same. I think probably using the same shape as this one, more or less the same. All right, so curved parts here and there. So if you look carefully, basically these are three different design. Okay, design number 1, design number 2, okay, design number 3. But or is it just one design? I'm not really sure about that. Okay, probably just one design from different angle. It's also possible. It's just one design from different angle. But if you look at the object, so the basic forms are like this. Okay, and then I think in between there's a smaller box, and then on that side another box. Okay, and then here there's another box. So from there, basically the designer curve up the sides, the object on the sides, so transforming to curved surface. And here also the same, transforming to curved surface. So that part also same, transforming to curved surface. So the floor plan can just be, you can just make out the floor plans a bit based on the arrangement. Okay, you cut the plan from the top, and then you can fill up the spaces inside. But if let's say the site has a very strong context, right? Maybe it's a bit difficult to do this because normally, as what you have learned in Design Studio, basically for you to produce a design, you need to consider the site context, right? The view, everything. But like I said, if the site is located like on an island site, probably you can use this method, right? Where the context is not really strong, then you can use this method. So another one, okay. So basically, it's, again and again, it's the same concept. This one is quite, I think, only using one shape. Okay, this shape, and then the rule application is like that. So apply to this side, and then apply to this side. Okay, something like that, and then another one here. Okay, so basically, just to come up with the basic form, and then from the basic form, you can detail out to create like interesting design. And then finally, this one, you can see clearly the shape rules. This is the first rule, the second rules. And then this is only shows the finalized design. So there's no design alternatives shown here, but the finalized design looks like this. Okay, so basically this is the what you need to do as well in the final project. Later on, I'll brief you after this. Okay, the shape rules doesn't have to be complicated. Okay, the forms doesn't have to be complicated, right? So if you can see here, those are just cuboids, and then you basically the cuboids actually inside each cuboid there's different spaces. Okay, I'm not sure about this. This one is subway station. Okay, subway station probably is quite straightforward because you only need large spaces, right, for people to wait for the train and so on. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to share the brief. The project brief. Let me find the brief first. Okay, can you see the brief?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a brief from project 2. By the way, when is the submission for project 1? I think last week. Is it last week or this week? Forgot already.
Next week.
Oh, next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
28.
Right, so I just put week 15 for the submission of this project, but well, I don't mind if you submit a bit late, as long as you submit. Okay. Okay, so for this project, the title is Shape Grammar of Taylor's Clubhouse. You don't really have to, if let's say the CMCO is extended maybe until the end of the semester, it doesn't matter if you don't visit the campus, okay, to look at the lake. You can just take photos that you can find on the internet to work on it. But like I said, in this kind of application, you don't really need to do like site analysis and so on. You just need to come up with the basic design, the basic form of the building, and then try to locate, try to put it nicely on the site, considering maybe like the sun path east and west, things like that. Okay, so it carries 40%, 40% of the final marks. The submission requirement is 2 pieces of A2 presentation boards, but you just need to submit digital copy, so copy you don't need to print. Okay, right. So this is an example. Right, what you can see from this image is basically in terms of the form. Okay, I got this image from the internet, but I believe it was not produced using any shape grammar. Okay, so it's just like a normal design produced using the traditional design method, but end up looking like this. But from here, what we can see, what I can see from this design is basically it has some kind of repetitive element. Okay, in terms of this sharp edges like this, right? So it is possible to create this kind of design using shape rules. Okay. So so in this project, basically you need to employ multiple rule shape grammar to produce new architectural design from your own set of rules. Okay, each student need to recall and creatively apply the knowledge that you have acquired from lectures, exercises, and project 1 to produce a good grammar. The shape grammar will allow students to create multiple design alternatives of the building and subsequently choose the best design to be further detailed. I'm sorry, I think earlier I mentioned that you can use one rule, single rule for this project, but sorry, I forgotten about that. Basically, I mentioned here you need to use multiple rules. At least 2 rules need to be applied. So you need to have at least 2 rules to create the design. Basically, the learning outcomes from this project is to produce new architectural design using shape grammar method from your own set of rules. Okay, it requires students to design a 2-story clubhouse for Taylor's University. The building can be placed anywhere around the lake, preferably near the play courts, if you still remember where the play courts is. So since shape grammar only concerns with the creation of building shape and form, therefore students are not required to conduct site analysis for this project. So the site context and images are only required to be superimposed in the 3D images of the final design. Okay, so basically when you have the final design, you just need to Photoshop. So you take the image and then Photoshop into the background, right? Okay, the minimum, however, there are like minimum space requirements, just like your design studio project. So you have a space requirement, right? What you need to put in the building. So you also need to have that in this project. So you need to have lobby and lounge, office spaces for student club, 2 changing rooms for male and female, including toilets and showers, space, storage space for sport equipment, same area, 1 cafe, 1 kitchen, decks or platform, and other sporting spaces, right? Okay, first step in this project will be to establish multiple shape rules. Okay, more than, I think, even though I put here more than 2 rules, I think it's sufficient if you just use two rules. I think later on I will amend this. For the grammar, to create only the basic design of the building, the rules may be divided into 2 types. Okay, may be divided. You can have basic rules to create the basic form, and you can also have ornamenting rules to further elaborate the basic form. Okay, but it is not compulsory. So if you think that you want to have, maybe you only have 2 rules to create the basic form. So another 1 rule is basically like the example that I've shown earlier. So maybe that 1 rule is considered as ornamenting rules, where you curve out the surface of the of the form. Then produce 5 designs using the rules that have been established without showing the development process, right? So just like the first project, so you need to in the first project you need to produce 3 pavilion design, but it's just the basic form. You don't need to show the step-by-step process, how you derive with each of the design. You can just straight away show the completed basic form of the design. Okay, and then from that 5 design, you need to choose one of the design alternative to be finalized, and only for that one finalized design or one chosen design need to show the development process, how you develop, how you produce the design using the rules, and then after that you need to further detail out the design using traditional design method. So you need to show first. You start off with, let's say, a cube, right? And then the first step, you add a cuboid next to the cube, and then the second step, you apply again a cube to the cuboid, things like that, until you come up with the final form, right? And then after you have that final form, you need to detail out using the traditional design method, meaning that you need to put windows and doors where appropriate, and so on. So this is some kind of a reverse process. Normally in the design studio, you produce the floor plan first, right? You produce the floor plans, then you detail out the elevation, and then you come up with the 3D form and so on. Okay, so basically using the traditional method, basically you need to add windows and doors where appropriate, maybe the roof, right? If let's say you don't have specific rules to add roof to the building, okay, to the form, and then you are required to produce 3D images, right? Perspective, or if you don't know how to use computer software, then you can draw perspective. It can be freehand, doesn't matter. And if possible, you need to superimpose to the actual image of the site. Okay, so if not, then you need to draw the background, or maybe the image of the lake. Okay, submission requirement: 2 pieces of A2 presentation board, soft copy. So the first board includes the shape rules, 5 basic design produced using the rules, and the development process of of the chosen design. Okay, one chosen design. And then the second part comprises the finalized design, including 2 floor plans and 3 3D renderings of the perspective. Right? So no need to show the elevation. Okay, so just the floor plans, 2 floor plan, and the rendering, exterior perspective as well as interior perspective. Okay, so this is the actual example of the project done by the previous students. I think this one is was in 2015, 2014 or 2015. Even the code is different. Okay, so basically the shape rules. First part, this is one, the first board. Okay, the first board 1, A2. So this part here is shape rules. All the rules, you can see here there are 5 rules. And then this is the basic alternative design. Okay, so the forms, the basic forms that you can derive with this shape rules. And then from there you choose one design. I think this one is design number 2, right here, this one. So design number 2. And only that one design you need to show the development process. Okay, starting from the initial object, and then the rule of application of the first rule, okay, the second rules, so things like that, until you come up with the form, basic form of the final design. Then from there, you come up with the floor plan. Basically, you just fill up the spaces within that form. Okay, so you need to refer to the list of spaces that you need to put in. Okay, and then you just draw on the plan. But these students also include the roof plan, which is not really required. So the requirement is only 2 floor plans and then the perspective images like this. So the windows and doors were placed manually, right? So just the form was created using the rules, but the windows and doors were placed manually. Okay, just like that. If possible, try to even though this is not a real design project like what you do in the design studio, but if possible, try to have like a good sense of scale. So meaning that maybe the space is not too big, not too small. If you are designing the changing room, perhaps it's not too small or too big. Okay, and then maybe the storage not too small, not too big. So you need to have that kind of sense of scale for each of the space that you are designing. Okay, the assessment criteria for this project, the first one is creativity of the shape rules created, originality and variety of the basic design produced using the rules, and appropriateness of rules application, right? Because I'm going to look at whether you apply the rules correctly or not. You don't simply apply the rules and then create the form, but I'm going to look at whether the rules are applied correctly or not. Okay, so make sure you apply, if you want to score high marks, so you need to make sure that you apply the rules correctly. Okay, so these are the breakdown of the, this is the assessment rubrics, the breakdown of the criteria and the marks. Right, so the biggest chunk is the last part, the final design. Okay, 2 floor plans and 3D rendering. Right. So you need to satisfy all the requirements now. Okay, so I'm going to revise some of this brief a bit. For example, like maybe this more than 2 rules, I would just change to 2 rules. Okay, 2 rules or more. Okay, so meaning that even if you have only 2 rules, that's okay, right? If more than 2 rules, meaning that you need to have at least 3. Okay, but if I put 2 rules, then it's fine to have 2 rules. And then I might also change this, instead of multiple rule shape grammar, Okay, they just change to, doesn't matter whether you have, let me review the brief first lah. So I'm still thinking whether you need to use multiple or you can also use a single row shape grammar. Okay, yeah, anything you want to ask before I end this session? I hope to see some of your design for project 1 so that I can, we can have tutorial after this if you want. But if you don't have any progress, then maybe it's a bit difficult to guide you on the process. So any question before I end this session? Are you guys still there?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So any more question? Basically, this is going to be the last lecture. So after this, it's just a tutorial session. So I would like to see your, doesn't matter if even though the submission for project 1 is next week, but like I said, as long as you submit, just mark without any late submission penalty. I just want you to pass this module. Okay. That's it. But I really want to see some progress so that I can comment or I can guide you. Okay. So I don't want you to just submit whatever, but I hope whatever you submit, whatever you submitted is correct, right?
Sir, I have question. Is that okay? Because today I actually have class for
Okay.
in adaptation. So
What time?
2
What time?
p.m. because
2 p.m.
2 p.m. Yeah. Last
I
time I
thought.
thought 12 p.m. 12 a.m. But then 12 p.m. But then my tutor changed the time to 2 p.m. So will be
See.
rush for me.
So it's
Yeah.
clashing.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
is that okay if tutorial I meet you another day?
Because originally this class is on Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
So are you free on Wednesday?
Wednesday, yes.
Then okay lah. If for you, maybe if you want to see me on Wednesday, if you want to discuss on Wednesday, it's fine. Okay, but the
Okay,
rest,
thank you, sir.
maybe Friday.
Sir, actually I have another question for my
Yeah.
exercise submission.
Okay.
I found that I